CAIR has published another one of their civil rights reports. This yearly event is reported on TV without the stations ever reading any of them. Here is an example of what is in CAIR's latest report.
Minnesota, Medina Lakes is a Muslim-friendly development project proposal, including a mosque and homes to cater to a broad demographic to ensure accessibility and inclusivity for all. Despite efforts to engage constructively with the city and address concerns raised during public hearings, the council's decision to halt the process is viewed by many as discriminatory and Islamophobic as well as a departure from established procedures.
CAIR is leaving out a very important part of this story. So let's quickly review.
Tonight, a proposed development called Medina Lakes was discussed at the Lino Lakes City Council meeting. It would be located on 156 acres of what is currently Robinson's Landscaping at 310 Main Street and include housing options and a mosque. Representatives from the Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations support this project.
From the moment CAIR became involved in this story, it was only a matter of time before CAIR's Minnesota Executive Director, Jailani Hussein, began waving his hands, calling names, and looking for someone to have fired.
Yeah, developers argue the council's decision to table this project is racially motivated, arguing no other projects in recent years have experienced this much pushback from the city and its residents. And despite this roadblock, developers say they are not giving up. The Medina Lakes project includes hundreds of homes, restaurants, and a mosque. And developers from Zicker Holdings want to build on a 156-acre piece of land in Lino Lakes. But Monday night, the council decided to table the project.
We urge the city council to right the wrongs thus far and not to go down this path of continued injustice.
This moratorium isn't meant to stifle development, but to ensure clarity, transparency, and thoughtful planning.
Council on American Islamic Relations, however, argues the decision to table the project and create a moratorium are based on racism and Islamophobia.
What we're seeing is a clear disrespect for rule of law, disrespect for decorum, and clearly no hiding the bias.
CAIR Minnesota say they're still figuring out their next move. They're waiting to see if the city approves the moratorium next week. If that happens, they may consider legal action or other options to convince the city to reconsider.
This particular action is discriminatory. We believe that the city acted in bad faith and the leadership is acting in bad faith.
Lino Lakes City Council members approved a moratorium last night, blocking new development in the northwest part of the city. Minnesota chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations is condemning the decision. They just released a statement this morning. It says in part, quote, "The decision by the Lino Lakes City Council represents a setback for fairness and inclusivity. The Medina Lakes project is an opportunity to foster diversity and meet the growing demands of our community. We're deeply disappointed by this vote, which undermines due process and the principles of equitable governance."
Last month, a representative with Minnesota Council on American Islamic Relations told city council members they feel a moratorium would be discriminatory and wrote a letter to state leaders, including Governor Tim Walz and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, that they're prepared to take legal action if necessary. Minnesota Council on American Islamic Relations calls this move to delay the development discriminatory.
Fighting this, it is a continuation of Islamophobia. It is when cities and towns use land use as a way to deny Muslims either moving in through housing, schools, or cemeteries. For the past 3 months, we have seen hundreds of people showing up to every city council meeting or planning meeting, and in those meetings, people have continuously projected Islamophobic, anti-Muslim statements in why they do not want this project to move forward.
Just trying to be smart about what that area ultimately looks like, how it's laid out. Right now, we can't drill another well if we wanted to. We're using 700 some million gallons of our allotted 900.
But Medina Lakes developers and the Council on American Islamic Relations argue the moratorium was only passed to keep their project out of the city, arguing the moratorium represents a, quote, setback for fairness and inclusivity.
Clearly, no hiding the bias.
They basically were saying that we are Islamophobic if we do a moratorium. We are, stopping the development. Nobody's stopping it. We're just pausing it for now, right? Hang tight for a year. Let us do our studies. To be accused of racism or Islamophobia just, it's shameful, honestly. So far from it. And that's why I finally had to start speaking out about it.
But then this happened.
Digging through public records and speaking with a number of sources, I've confirmed the man behind the proposed development in Lino Lakes is using an alias. He's not and has never been a licensed contractor in the state of Minnesota, and he has a history that includes admissions of fraud.
I stand before you with a humble heart.
The man behind the proposed Lino Lakes housing development and mosque calls himself Faraz Yusuf, but court records show his name is actually Faraz Mohammed, and he has a past that includes a fraud conviction in criminal court and fraud allegations in civil court.
As a builder, I can proudly say that I have fewer lawsuits than most.
And despite telling the public, as well as KAIR 11 News in a past interview, that he is a longtime builder.
I myself have been a residential builder and developer for the last 8-9 years.
KAIR 11 News has confirmed that despite starting the process with the state in 2019, Mohammed is not and never has been a licensed contractor in the state of Minnesota. His legal troubles began in 2011 when, according to a criminal complaint, he forged his boss's name onto checks he wrote to himself, cashed, or used to pay his own bills, to the tune of $20,000. He pleaded guilty to theft by swindle, court records show. Just this week, Mohammed settled a lawsuit accusing him of fraud for allegedly falsely claiming his company was a licensed contractor, then failing to perform more than $50,000 of work he was paid for. Mohammed agreed to pay the plaintiff in installments with no response to the allegations. Back to that new name, the lawsuit also claims Mohammed uses aliases including Faraz Yusuf to confuse, mislead, or otherwise defraud persons with whom he does business. Faraz Yusuf is the name he's been using regarding his latest company, CAIR Holdings, which records show was created in December 2023, less than 4 months before presenting the idea of the Muslim-centric Medina Lakes development project to the Lino Lakes City Council. Members this week voted to pause the proposal for 1 year to further research that amount of growth, while Mohammed and the Minnesota Council on American Islamic Relations accused them of Islamophobia. Mohammed's company, CAIR Holdings, boasts a proven track record spanning over 10 years, creating thriving communities. Mohammed's father told us he has been doing a lot of contracts.
Like working for other companies, though, or what?
No, his own projects, yeah.
But he's not a contractor.
Oh, he's a general contractor.
No, he doesn't have a license, though.
I think he has.
He doesn't. I checked.
Concerned Lino Lakes residents have questions about these flyers received from Mohammed's CAIR Holdings office, asking for a $10,000 down payment to reserve a home in the now paused Medina Lakes project. The fine print says down payments are non-refundable after 30 days.
We learned a complaint in another state about the man behind the contentious Medina Lakes development in Lino Lakes resulted in an investigation by the FBI. Lou Ragoose has the new details.
I stand before you with a humble heart.
Faraz Yusuf Mohammed has been the focus of a lot of news coverage this year, most recently for suing the city of Lino Lakes for alleged religious discrimination after they paused his proposed Muslim-centric Medina Lakes development. But when our story, reporting that Faraz was using an alias and didn't have a contractor's license, made its way to Atlanta, it gave Alston Paget of Whitco Roofing deja vu.
It was sort of shocking that this is still going on.
Hey, Faraz, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir.
Paget sent us this recording of a phone call between their commercial roofing company and Faraz, who called with his boss in November 2022.
I have been, for a lack of another way to say it, been dishonest.
Invoices show Whitco Roofing paid Elite Force Building Supply $606,000 during the supply chain problems in the pandemic, after they say Faraz, a salesman, claimed they had a factory in Turkey that could ship right away.
I, on more than and multiple occasions, have fabricated stories as to where the product is and where it's going to be.
On the call, Faraz and his boss, Christy Workman, admit he forged shipping receipts and is now under investigation by the FBI.
Because we're talking about forged documents, misappropriation of funds and materials, it's massive, and you're not the only one involved.
We sent them $606,000 as a deposit, and we've gotten nothing back. They never ordered the supplies. They never had the supplies. They never had a factory that could make the supplies.
The aspect of the Lino Lakes case that concerns the Atlanta roofing company the most is that Faraz was taking non-refundable deposits for people wanting to live in the Medina Lakes development before his company, Zicker Holdings, even owned the land.
It's a bit frustrating that they haven't been stopped.
But of course, it's not over until the fat lady is fired.
While Councilmember Chris Lydon rejected accusations that the city is trying to prevent the project's construction on the basis of faith, the council member reportedly responded to a hate-filled, anti-Muslim email.
The nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization is calling for the resignation of a Lino Lake City Council member. So the Council on American and Islamic Relations, it's also known as CAIR, says that Christopher Lydon enthusiastically responded to a, quote, anti-Muslim email. This email was sent in response to a New York Times article on a development project which included a new mosque. The person who sent the email included commentary like, quote, don't believe the lying Muslims, and called the Quran hate speech against Jews and Christians. Now, Councilmember Lydon is said to have responded to the email saying, quote, might be the best email I have ever received. This is according to CAIR. Now, the Muslim advocacy group is calling for Lydon's resignation. We have contacted Lydon for a response but haven't received an immediate reply.
So now it was no longer about a shady real estate developer, but rather an email.
A racist, Islamophobic, hateful, disgusting email. There's no reason he should be on the city council. There's no reason. We're also asking for people who have nothing to do with Lino Lakes. Residents of the state of Minnesota, people who say that they care about Islamophobia, they want to do something about it. We want to hear them. We want to hear them, and we also want them to show up to these city council meetings.
And to show just how racist the city council is, they are still considering this insane project. There is only one entry in CAIR's report under the heading of housing discrimination, and this is it. With over 8,000 examples for CAIR to choose from, CAIR has chosen the best of those to prove their case of a crisis. And with that, they have produced a report that is full of lies.